Hansney, Honorable Deputy Mayor, and my friend Sabaili Pitala, Honorable Deputy Mayor of Cambridge, and my dear friends. I am very much privileged and really delighted to be here with you to deliver my address on social justice and political equality. Without introduction, I am coming to the subject itself. The major responsibility of a state is the administration of justice. That is, protection of political rights, their fundamental rights, and to the application of the law and the punishment of the offenders are the essential components of administration of justice. But social justice is different. Social justice involves really the opportunity itself, at the same time the fair balance of distribution of equitable distribution of the wealth and opportunity and the privileges within the society and the rights of the individuals to be protected and recognized. As per the social theory propounded by Socrates, people agree to follow the rule of law, but at the same time they expect that the state shall discharge their duties for the benefit of the people. One of the major responsibilities is the administration of justice and of course social justice. Equality and social justice are the goals for fairness in the society. For example, right to education, as he said, right to education, free access to health care, equal pay, housing, employment opportunities, criminal justice. They are the major things the state shall have the responsibility to discharge their duties. The true democracy, the real democracy, democratic system is the prerequisite for a state to be able to dispense social justice. One of the major studies, recent studies, revealed that half of the nations in the world are experiencing declining of democracy in a range from the flawed elections, to curtailing the rights of expression of speech and other forms to other rights to assemble. This displays the current situation which is prevailing in many of the states regarding democracy and social justice. Despite the fact that many of the nations had tried so much to promote the social justice, but inequalities persist in the society. An interesting opinion made by the IMF, International Monetary Fund, that though the progress has been made in reducing inequality for the last 30 years, the inequality within the country have increased, particularly in advanced economies. Over the last 3 decades, more than half of the countries and nearly all advanced economies have seen an increase in the income inequality, with some countries experiencing increases in Gini coefficients of more than 2 points, when it is the unit for the measurement of the inequality, that is Gini coefficient, that is above 2% in many of the states, particularly in the advanced economy states. The COVID-19 pandemic situation has widened the distance between haves and have-nots. The interesting thing is that post-World War situation created some institutions, just like United Nations, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. We have to think about those institutions, what they are doing now. Here, that is why I told you that very interesting statement made by the IMF. What is the role of IMF to fill the gap between the haves and have-nots? They are spending money. They are giving loans to the third world countries with conditions, stipulated conditions. After obeying these conditions, after imposing these conditions, they will be in trouble. So these institutions, including the World Bank, my opinion, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, they are also using their instrument to increase the gap between the haves and have-nots. And what is the role of the UN? You are seeing every day, no role at all. When the war is going on, when the conflict is there, what is their role? These are the institutions created in the post-war situation. They are not doing anything. The concept of social justice arose in the 19th century as a result of the ill effect of the Industrial Revolution, as wealth was concentrated in the hands of few, and the workers and laborers were subjected to extreme exploitation. Even the small children were made to work factories for extended hours. As a result of this, the laissez-faire and the less governance then prevailing in some countries paved the way to welfare state theory. What is laissez-faire? Abstention by governments from interfering in the working of the free market. Government didn't have any leading role. Government was having the role of only a facilitator. That is a laissez-faire system. The market economy was controlling the entire situation. Government didn't have any role. That laissez-faire and less governance. As a result of the Industrial Revolution, the gap has widened. As a result of this gap, this laissez-faire and the less governance have gone. Then the theory has started, the welfare state theory. The welfare, what are the responsibilities of a welfare state? That I told you earlier, that right to education. Every citizen has a right for education and free access to health care, equal pay, minimum wages. Minimum wages should be arranged through the legislations. We have made some minimum wages act at the time of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru introduced Bonus Act, Industrial Dispute Act, and this Minimum Wages Act. All those legislation were in favor of the laborers. Labor lenient legislations. Nowadays, what is happening in the legislatures? Legislatures are bringing legislations, the so-called labor legislations, but they are not labor lenient. They are showing the lenience to the corporates, for the influenced classes, not for the poor classes. That is what is happening across the world in almost every legislatures. Though social justice initially focused on the equitable distribution of wealth, now its horizon has expanded, include the human rights, and improving the living standard of the underprivileged classes. They have been facing this discrimination for centuries together. For example, in India, the complex society, the caste system, has been existing for a long time, centuries together. Varna system, the religions, many religions, thousands of castes, the poor people, those who are not having a right to education, those who are not having to walk through the public roads, denied opportunity for education, denied opportunity for good employment. That is why after the independence, when we made a constitution, the Constituent Assembly made a provision for reservation to the backward classes, especially for the scheduled communities and scheduled tribes, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, and of course for the other backward communities. That is a clear example of social justice. Well, justice was denied for a long time. In the Constitution of India, well, there is a clear provision, Article 14, equality before law. All persons are equal before law, irrespective of their caste, creed, sex, color, or anything. Then there was a very good question in the Constituent Assembly to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. He was saying one side that all citizens are equal before law, but at the same time you are giving provision for reservation for another side. That is contradictory. He has made a wonderful reply in the Constituent Assembly. Panditji said that is our aim, that is our object. Equality before law. A day will come. On that day, everybody will be equal in front of law. For that day, we have to shake a hand to the people, the downtrodden people, the sideline people who have been denied their rights for centuries. That is the concept of the reservation. It's a wonderful example for the social justice made by our constitution. And John Rawls' theory of justice has contributed a lot towards the shift in thinking. That is, initially it was only the balance in the equitable distribution of wealth, then it shifted to the rights, human rights and fundamental rights. John Rawls believed in the concept of justice as fairness, everywhere, fairness. That means every person should be treated with fairness and recommends equal basic liberties, equal opportunities to similar individuals and offering the highest possible benefits to the less advantaged members of the society. That is Rawls' theory, offering the highest possible benefits to the less advantaged members of the society, those who are not having health facilities, health access, or doesn't have any system for education. We have to provide them. What is our possibility? We have to think about that. And the Constitution of India guarantees social justice to the people of the country through many articles. Fundamental rights, all fundamental rights are for social justice. Article 15(1) forbids discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. Article 16(1) ensures equal opportunity for all. Article 17 states that untouchability has been abolished and prohibits its existence. Article 19 enshrines the freedom of speech and expression. Now the social justice is, I think you are clear. The political equality. Political equality refers to the equality of citizens to have an equal voice over the government decisions. Political equality is not limited to voting, but it includes equality before law and freedom of speech. One of the bedrock of democracy is the equal consideration of the preferences and interests of all citizens, irrespective of caste, creed, color, or religion. 50 years back, voting rights in elections was the most important aspect of political equality. Nowadays, that alone cannot establish political equality, because almost all the countries have given adult suffrage, universal suffrage. The foundation of political equality is the belief that man is a rational being on account whereof he has the capacity of political judgment, notwithstanding the distinctions between man and women. In the later phase, the second phase, political equality came to be identified more with democratic rights, such as freedom of expression, the right to form an association, to hold political opinion without any fear, and other civil liberties. Historically, women were kept away from voting in almost all the countries. The US Declaration of Independence and its publication saw the seeds for the women's suffrage movement in the United States. We have also an interesting story for the fight for the women's suffrage. The fight for female suffrage continued and became increasingly associated with the fight for national independence from British imperial rule. The fight for the women's suffrage has become the path of the national movement. Many Indian suffrage campaigners were imprisoned in the 1930s and 40s for their role in the nationalist struggle. Ultimately, these campaigners had to wait until independence from imperial rule in 1947 to finally secure a full adult franchise for all men and women. Now, initially it was 21. Now, what is the minimum age in India? 18. That is, Rajiv Gandhi introduced that legislation on the floor of the parliament. Now it is 18. At the commencement of the constitution itself, India had granted universal adult franchise, naturally including women. The change to money-dominated election process, the free and fair election is also one of the major aspects of political equality. The change to money-dominated election process increases political inequality. The elections are going on. Somebody is spending huge amount. Somebody is not able to spend money. Then the money power. Then the muscle power. That controls the elections. I don't think that that is free and fair election. The quality of citizen participation is more important as the equality of voting, instrumental participation. Caste, creed, religion, money have become the deciding vote in many cases. In many countries across the world, the ruling class become despotic and has curtailed the freedom of expression, the right to form an association, or to hold a political opinion, or other civil liberties. I am very much worried. You have to go through the history, not the far history, the 20th century. We have to read what happened in the first half of the 20th century. I am very much worried that that is what is happening in the first half of the 21st century. The Nazism, the fascism originated